Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to recap PGF Season 7, the 205-pounders. We're going to talk about the men's Midwest Finisher 155-pound bracket and the women's 125-pound title that took place this weekend. We are going to preview the IBJJF Crown. We have brackets for all of the Crown divisions for IBJJF. We're going to preview Maine Character BJJ that has some phenomenal matches on it, both bracket and super fight. We are also going to preview ADXC 7, which has some phenomenal matches on it, and pit submission coming up. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Miranda.
Hey, Miranda.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. We just went to spent like an hour on the pre-show.
Yeah.
And these cards coming up are phenomenal. I am really, really excited for both the Crown, Main Character, and ADXC. Like, all three cards this next weekend are stacked. So we'll get into those at the preview section of the show later in the show. But before we get into that, we have some pretty big news. We have a bunch of news, but ONE FC news to be specific. Marcelo Garcia is back. For those of you who don't know who Marcelo Garcia is, he's one of the biggest competitors and
Well, not biggest in physical size, but biggest in
accolades.
Accomplishments.
Multiple-time IBJJF world champion, multiple-time world pro medalist, 4-time ADCC world champion, I think 7-time medalist. I think he's got 4 golds, 2 silvers, 1 bronze from like 2003 to 2011. World champion in 2011 and in ADCC 2011. One of the best competitors of all time, bar none. I don't think anyone ever is going to dispute that.
And good human.
Yeah. So he retired officially a couple years back. Like, realistically, he retired in about 2011.
Yeah.
Like, he won his world title and he won his pick and choose his 4th world title at ADCC. He'd won another world title in IBJJF, and he stopped competing for a bit to focus on his gym and his school and a bunch of other things he had going on at the time. He retired officially in 2021, and he was like, hey, I may come back, but right now, I'm taking some time off. He opened up a gym in Hawaii. He had cancer. He beat cancer. He came back, and there was rumors at CJI, at ADCC, other big organizations had been talking for, a couple of years now.
Yeah.
That there was a rumor that Marcelo Garcia was coming back. And it was a pretty public rumor because Marcelo Garcia had kind of talked about it.
Well, he's like, yeah, and before we knew the cancer diagnosis, initially it was he was gonna go back to do trials
or ADCC. It was like he was basically he was a shortlist to get an invite. You're like, yeah, man, you're a 4-time gold medal, 4-time world champion at ADCC. That happens every 2 years. Like, ADCC, yes, they will absolutely have you back, even if it's been a couple of years. So, yeah, cancer, he came back, and then the big question is, okay, where does he go? Like, who essentially can probably fit the bill that Marcelo is going to ask for, because he doesn't need to come back at all.
No.
And if he comes back, who are you going to put him again? Are you going to put him in another bracket? You're going to put him in it will probably be a super fight in a big organization, and kind of it makes sense that it would be in one championship. They have one of the biggest, international grappling shows.
And they have some smaller competitors.
Yeah, they have a smaller competitor. Yeah. They have, they just, let Mikey go.
Yeah.
But they do have smaller guys in those divisions. Marcelo, I think, usually is about, 170 or so, give or take. He's running a little smaller nowadays. But again, it's also been 13 years since we've seen him compete.
That's what I would think. I would think he's about that size.
So this kicked off a huge discussion internally at the Grappling Rewind for all of us going, okay, that's awesome, he's back. Who does he face?
Yeah.
And then you texted the group something funny. You're like, hey, unrelated, they also just signed Fabricio Andre.
Yeah.
Which we say unrelated, but it could be realistic. And so it came through all of us basically going through Marcelo's history, figuring out, okay, who do you want to see Marcelo against?
But I think especially because of the time off, you almost have to give him someone his age or older.
Marcelo's 41 right now.
Yeah. So his age or older, and a master competitor.
Yeah, you don't want to give him Baby Shark.
Yeah, the first time out the gates, you need to see if this is going to be a shit show.
Yeah. Again,
You
it's
know?
Marcelo Garcia, so it's probably not, but also
Probably not.
he's not competed
Yeah.
in 13 or 14 years
Yeah,
at this point.
and,
That's
you know,
that's a while.
And that does like you have to get back into that.
Like Lovato's a
you know.
similar age, but Lovato never really took a ton of time off. He was in
No.
MMA, then he was in jiu-jitsu, then he was back in jiu-jitsu. Like
Marcelo didn't. Well, Marcelo kind of did. Like he was during COVID. He wasn't around the school, I believe, as much.
yeah.
So who?
And then he moved to Hawaii, and then he opened to
Yeah.
Hawaii, and like,
he had been in Hawaii. Then the cancer diagnosis came, and then he moved back to New York
for treatment.
for treatment.
That's what it was.
Yeah,
okay.
and then
I kind of forgot
he's
the
back.
history.
Yeah,
there.
and then he's back in Hawaii now because I just saw them put together
Mm-hmm.
the school and have the grand opening of the school last couple weeks. So
Oh, I thought that was like last year.
I think they opened, but then they might have closed and then reopened. I don't know.
Maybe that's what it was.
But
Okay.
like recently, I thought
Another
I saw
grand
them.
opening of the school in
Yeah.
Hawaii. So Marcelo's back. This kind of spurred off a bunch of questions for us of like, okay, so he's 41, hasn't competed since 2011. Who do you give him? And
I mean, you could give him like
my favorite pick here, not to cut you off,
yeah.
was Lachlan.
Lachlan's been competing too much.
Yeah, but he's retired now. He had a second baby. He kind of retired after this last ADCC
Yeah.
2022. He's been off for a couple years. I don't think he's really interested in competing, but I think like when I interviewed Lachlan Giles at ADCC 2019, he had that crazy run in the absolute. In his interview, he mentioned like the credentials of Marcelo in his division, and when Marcelo did absolute, like he's a guy that is in Lachlan's head, at least because in that interview he talked about like Marcelo's accolades in contrast to his own accolades that year in the absolute.
I mean, we could also see him go against somebody like Barrett Yoshida.
Yeah, Barry Yoshida was thrown around a little bit.
Or
Tadade.
Imanari.
I said Shinya Aoki because Shinya Aoki was one still. Shinya will occasionally do grappling matches.
Yeah.
Similar age, similar build and style.
I just think you can't give him a world champion day one. You just
after 14
I mean,
years
you
off.
can, but there's a
you
little bit.
You want to warm him up a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you want to be respectful.
that he's Marcelo. Hey man,
'Cause
I don't
it's
want to give him Pato day
Yeah,
one. I don't want to give him.
I mean, don't get me wrong. He's probably used to it. Like,
Oh,
I'm sure
absolutely.
the people he trains with try to take his head off. On a
this is
regular-
taking nothing away from Marcelo.
No,
it's just like
but-
it's been 13 years since we've seen him compete.
You don't take someone.
Give him a lead in.
Yeah, and you don't take someone of those
Accolades.
accolades and throw them, to fire, kind of like you do your brand new black belt that just got their black belt last week, and then you're like, ha,
Who's a 20-year-old or something like
here's
that.
a world champion, see what the fuck
Right.
you do, kind of thing. You don't do that to
a guy that's won, who won for 15 years straight.
Yeah.
Then took 15 years off and is back. Can Marcelo do it? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't really surprise me to see him taking, if he's going to actually come back and his body can kind of keep up with, it, which is the other kind of big question. Is this a one and done, or does he want to get back into competing in his 40s? I don't know. There's definitely a place for people to watch Marcelo Garcia compete. He's one of the guys that when I first got into the sport, I studied more than anyone else because he just had he was a little bigger than me. He's a little bigger than me, but he has a very similar game to the game that I liked to play. Really heavy headhunter, butterfly, into X. Like his game is a game that I've really emulated in like the modern sense a lot. So I'm amped to see him come back. We've actually never had a chance to cover him like in a modern match. I think during COVID, we broke down a bunch of his matches then. On one of when we used to do the breakdown shows because there was nothing happening. We were picking guys that we liked, and Marcelo was a guy that we picked. Broke down some matches on. So yeah, I'm amped to see him come back. Really, the question is like, who do you give? Do they throw him to Cade? I don't think they will.
That.
Do you give him guys that are already in 1FC?
I mean,
do you give him Tommy Langacker or Canuto? Like there are definitely good matches to be made. The one I would love to see is the Lachlan match because I think that is like a contemporary guy in age. And Lachlan has competed. He's been retired a little bit less, but is still like sort of in that hopper and still in the same realm. I think it would be an interesting stylistic matchup between the two guys because they're both guys at 77 kilos that had success in absolute.
Yeah.
So it's, again, I like both guys. I think that's sort of my dream matchup to make. But I think there are some phenomenal matches in 1FC, and that's wild that Marcelo is actually returning after us hearing about this for 5 years now.
It's not Sanji.
It's not Sanji.
Because somebody just said, are we finally going to get the MMA fight between Marcelo and Sanji? And Sanji was like, ha, ha, ha. Why is that? Marcelo's my idol.
That's really funny.
He said we did spar MMA once a long time ago.
Because Marcelo has one MMA fight in like 2006 in Deep. And I actually looked up today the record of the guy that Marcelo went against, fought in Pride, fought a bunch of stuff. Marcelo did one fight. He lost it via cut, and he was like, I hated this. I didn't like training for it. I didn't like doing it. I'm going to keep doing jiu-jitsu. And then he went on to win even more stuff in jiu-jitsu. Some people are throwing around like Kron Gracie. He has matches against Estima, Aoki. You think it's Aoki?
That's somebody else says that's the best.
I think Shinya Aoki is the best. Again, we've seen him a bunch in...
Or Hoffa.
You're going to get Hoffa back?
Hoffa out of retirement.
I mean, that's a kind of match that would be able to do it. So again, they're really exciting matchup opportunities for Marcelo Garcia.
Yeah.
But I'm in for it. They also just signed Cole Abate and Dante Leon last week. We talked about it. I don't think either of those sort of make sense for Marcelo as a first match back, but definitely interesting matchups regardless. So I'm amped who they pick. You have any other kind of thoughts on this before we move on?
No, but he's going to like take your head off. Because
my God.
I've heard that when he grabs a hold of you, it's like...
It's something different.
It's a whole nother... I forget who told me. Somebody rolled with him, and I forget who exactly it was in my life. And they were telling me how it's like... You don't realize how... Like, he grabs you like he's grabbing you to, like, steal your soul.
Yeah. I've also heard that it's a different kind of... It's like, it's not like anything I've ever felt when Marcelo grabs you.
Yeah.
So... I'm aiming for it. I'm super excited. Also in one championship this week, we had Cade Bertolo take his second MMA fight. We don't talk about MMA a ton on the show unless it's like a really notable jiu-jitsu guy that is kind of in his first couple of fights. Cade Bertolo took on Ahmed Muchabayev. I can never get the guy's name right. He hit him with, somebody said a collar tie. It was a straight, and then knocked him down and then darsed him. And the favorite comment from the weekend was, imagine getting flash knocked down and then ending up and coming to and ending up in the world's best darce.
Yeah, that's
the exact sequence of just Cade comes in, knocks him down, immediately jumps on him, like ground and pound. Ahmed kind of recovers a little bit, and then Cade just whack and knocks on a darce. Yeah. And that's the match. And it was one of those, that was a very, very good sequence. Gets a $50K bonus for that. Cade looks good. I'm very, very curious to see where his skill set develops, because again, I've kind of been liking watching Cade in MMA because he's been looking good. So also this past weekend we had Buchecha making his return versus Amir Al-Kabari. Gets a rear naked choke in round 1, belly down. Again, also gets a bonus. Buchecha was kind of complaining a couple of months ago about not getting a fight in 1, so I'm happy that one on their limited MMA cards is bringing him. De Ritter actually made his UFC debut this weekend as well.
Yeah.
Who's the former two-division 1 FC champion. And he's now in UFC. And he won as well. Yeah. It was I think decision? Or it was a...
I thought it was like a rear naked choke.
It was a sub, I think, yeah.
I think it was a rear naked choke.
Simon gave me the cliff notes on it because I only saw a little piece of it. I didn't see the whole thing. But, so that's news this week. Also, if you've made it into this far into the show, please like, share. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the show. It helps us a ton. And leave a comment if you like this show. We always appreciate them. I read them all, respond to them all. So thanks a lot for that. Where do you want to go, Miranda? Want to recap now?
Yeah, we'll start recapping.
All right, let's recap. Let's start the recap off with PGF Season 7. So we talked about the PGF draft last week's show. Yep. There are multiple teams. So the format for PGF is interesting. You have 20 guys. You draft a bunch of them that are the same weight or below a weight cap. Yeah. Then you draft them all based on points and dollars that your team has. Yeah. There are really big coaches there. You field a team, and then throughout that week, it's essentially a very large round robin where every other person not on your team goes against every other person. Yeah. So it is a lot of days of a lot of matches. As a result, we're going to talk a little bit about highlights for the people that made it into the finals. So overall, there is a team winner. And this year, Team New Generation wins that. They take that title. That was
$100,000.
Yeah, and it's split between the coaches and the team members. So it's like $20,000 a piece, essentially. That's the winning team, correct?
Yes, it is.
That's Pedro Sauer's team, Travis Thomas, Brad Schneider, Ernesto Rivera, Cam Hurd, Ryan Aiken, Christos Paledos, and Jacob Howarth.
I think they all really won because of Ryan Aiken.
Yeah, Ryan Aiken was on fire. There were two guys in this event we knew were were really, really good in the food guys. We know Elijah Carlton's good in the format,
Yeah.
multiple-time winner. We know that Ryan Aiken is good
Yeah.
because of all the overtime experience for his CJI wins, his combat jiu-jitsu wins, his EBI wins, and in this format, like it's a format that suits Ryan very well. And big standout.
And he's ginormous.
And he's huge too. He's very strong.
Yeah.
Marcin Maciulewicz, also so many highlights on
Yeah.
Instagram this week for him running through people and literally running like
running at people.
Who was it? It was Caleb Crum.
Yeah.
Like chasing Caleb Crum
Yeah.
across the mat. So it was a fun event. Again, there are 4 days of grappling and then a finals day.
Yeah.
We're not going to recap all of them because it's like
4 hours a day.
if that.
And
if
there's
it's
a lot of
more.
talking, so it's not really 4 hours of matches, but it's a lot.
But it is a lot of matches,
Yeah.
and it gets very confusing very quick. PGF uses a very interesting format that is, if you get a rear naked choke win versus you getting a joint lock win versus if you get a submission early in a match, you get more points. So it's all based on how many, like, overall your performance, if you go to a draw, if you get, depending on what kind of sub you get and
Yeah.
when you get it,
And
you get
chokes-
more or less points.
And chokes are more points than submissions.
Than arm bars or something like that.
Yeah.
Essentially is what it is. They like to have a guillotine or a rear naked choke or some kind of choke is worth more points because it's more real, I think, in
Yeah.
kind of the landscape of how they frame the event. People get injured all the time, so there were reserves on the teams, which I think is good. That's something that we saw from last event. They needed more reserves. They had enough reserves for this event, but it does kind of color the finals matches because people go in with a lot of mileage on them over the week.
Oh, that's what happened to him.
What?
Davis Asair took over Kyle Bem's play.
Okay, what happened to Bame?
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to figure out. Because, like, I knew there was somebody in this bracket that I was like, where did this person go? He must have...
Yeah.
Something happened to him.
People drop in and drop out, or drop in and get filled in because it is 5 days of really intense grappling against high-level competition. And you're having multiple matches in a day, and one injury early, and day 2, you still have 3 more days of competition. It just makes it very hard. It's one of the things I actually really don't like about the PGF format is because guys typically get so beat up at the end. We'll run through the finals here.
Yeah.
So the team wins, and then the best performers from the entire week, independent of team, go into this finals bracket for money as well.
Yeah.
It's 10,000, I think, or is it 20?
No, it's 20,000.
20,000 for the winner here, which is Ryan Aiken.
Oh, that's what happened.
Who broke his foot?
It says he doesn't tap to footlocks, and he definitely is Wojcik.
Wojcik breaks his foot. probably.
Wojcik did something to one of his feet.
Okay.
Like, legitimately put his entire body weight into one of his feet.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't tap to footlocks.
Yeah. So guys get injured.
There's a couple guys in this bracket that don't tap to footlocks.
Davis Asare.
Yeah.
So the best performers from the points perspective, regardless of team, move into this additional bracket on the final day. That is what we are going to cover because it's actually sort of tenable to cover in a format for the show that we have here. Let's start with the quarterfinals. We had Ryan Aiken versus Nathan Haddad. Ryan Aiken enters this with 9 wins. He has 6 chokes, and 3 joint locks. And he gets essentially a head and arm. Not essentially, he gets a head and arm over Nathan Haddad pretty quick into this match.
Sweep, pass, submit very quickly.
Yeah, and I think Ryan, you can see, has a bit of a length on Nathan as well, and he really
And
sort
a
of,
weight.
and a weight.
He's definitely bigger, and he beat him during the season. So
Yeah.
you're talking about somebody who already thinks, oh shit, this guy's going to kill me. And then next thing you know,
Mm-hmm. Which I think is a really interesting kind of wrinkle into this. Is like there's a couple of times that our teammates go against each other. So for instance, if you were drafted onto the same team early,
you don't go against each other.
you wouldn't have gone against each other. And then the finals, if you both have enough points on your team, you will both enter into the finals and go against each other. Like for instance, I think Marcin Maciulewicz and Chris Wojcik were on the same team.
Yeah.
And so they didn't go against each other until they met in the finals. So that's kind of, again, you're running essentially 2 different tournaments that are run in very different styles.
Yeah, and the during the season, if it goes the full 6 minutes, you go into a draw.
Yeah.
Where they have OT. So then they go into overtime, but the only OT position is the back.
Right.
Which is pretty easy. And they brought Eddie Bravo out to do it all.
Which I thought was kind of funny.
Yeah, it was kind of funny.
It's like, hey man, no one's gonna argue with Eddie
What
Bravo.
was hilarious was him like when in our second match we have Paul Ardilla. Paul Ardilla looked like he was dead after going against. Well, no, it's semifinals is when we start seeing OT. In quarterfinals, we're not seeing OT yet, but when we talk about Paul in semifinals, we'll talk about him being pulled around the stage by Eddie Bravo.
So Paul Ardilla versus Elijah Carlton is our second quarterfinals match. Ardilla has 4 going into this, 4 points, 4 wins, 3 by choke, or sorry, 3 by
submissions and 1 choke.
1 by choke, and then Elijah Carlton, who's a former PGF winner for one of the early before it was $100,000 bracket when it was those brackets.
But he's normally at 170. He's not a 205.
But I think he's also cutting some weight to get to 170.
Yeah.
Elijah was up here in Baltimore a while ago, and he's a big dude, guy. So Ardilla, this was a funny match, and I didn't love it, and even the commentary kind of brings it up. Ardilla gets called a shot clock, essentially. Like, if you're not engaging enough, they go, hey, you got to start moving, you got to do stuff, which I like. I think it's a great rule. And then Ardilla immediately throws threads and then gets almost to a north-south pass on Elijah. And then they give him a penalty anyway for it. And it was kind of like, that was weird. And even the commentary was like, that's not correct.
Well, sometimes I feel like they're really weird with stalling.
Yeah, it's not consistent or clear. And it's one of the things I don't like about it.
It was like that last season too.
Yeah, it's inconsistent. And it is problematically inconsistent from a viewer perspective when we're watching it. Like Ardilla, if this sequence from Ardilla doesn't get away from a stalling call, I don't know what does. He almost passes Carlton to north-south in this sequence, and then he gets called for stalling anyway when Carlton recovers his guard. It's like, hey man, I don't know what you could have done there.
Yeah.
You initiated a really aggressive pass and then almost got it settled and still didn't get out of that shot clock thing. Did they want him to throw for a sub or something? I don't know. It was a very weird sequence. But as a result, they give Elijah Carlton essentially a referee's position on Paul Ardilla, which is okay. I don't love gifting position. I really don't like it at all. I think it's a bad look, but that's the rule set. And Elijah Carlton starts to go and sort of rolling take Paul Ardilla's back. Yeah. And Paul Ardilla goes, cool, does a front roll and just knee bars Elijah Carlton, which is really funny because that's something you don't see very often. And I think it kind of might play into.
And it was funny because he literally was sitting on him and did that. I'm just gonna pull up
the
your
Gracie,
leg now.
the Gracie self-defense knee bar almost from the roll. But this is kind of why I think in the quarterfinals you see some weirdness because guys are so beat from days and days and days in competition. I don't know if we're getting the highest quality from any guy in the court in this kind of second tournament,
especially if they're not a 205er, because I think Ardilla and Aiken and probably Calbem were all 235.
Was Ardilla that big?
He was big.
Yeah, he was big. I didn't know he was that big. Yeah, he was bigger, but yeah. So there's a bit of a discrepancy.
You know what I mean? So those guys aren't
here.
probably taking as much damage, but Chris Wojcik,
yeah, Wojcik's not enormous.
He's not. He definitely competes at 88 kilograms, but he's not
he's not a big 88 kilo guy. Yeah.
No.
In contrast to a guy like Aiken or a guy like Calbem, which we know is cutting serious weight to be able to make 205. So that's always kind of my question here for these is we know how good Carlton is. We know how good Ardilla is as well, but it was just it was a weird, there was a couple weird, that was weird that he got you like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were both fresh in a regular tournament or hadn't had 4 or 5 days of competing up to this, if you would have seen this, regardless it happened. But it for me, it kind of calls into question. I'm it was also, how would this have gone if they were fresh?
It was also interesting to see Paul Ardilla in this rule set because I don't think I've ever seen him in a sub-only match before. I've seen him in ADCC.
ADCC a lot.
But I've never seen him in something that wasn't points.
I don't think either.
And so you got to see him kind of deal with the fact that he can't just point fight people, that he has to attack people. Which I mean
we saw that he could do. Which
he
was
does,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that was an interesting little wrinkle into it.
So that was that. Anything else on that one?
Nope.
Moving on, we have Marcin Maciulewicz versus Davis Asare. So this is what confused me because these two met in the season.
Yeah.
And they met after Davis Asare had his leg broken earlier by Ryan Aiken.
Yes.
Was it Ryan Aiken?
Yes. Ryan Aiken pulled a heel hook, and it sounded like when you break pieces of spaghetti over and over and over again.
If you've ever sprained or torn someone's ligament in their knee, that's the sound you heard.
That's the sound, yes.
And having done it like to guys in competition with heel hooks, that's exactly what it sounds like.
It's the feeling that you receive when it happens too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Davis doesn't tap and then eventually taps.
Yeah.
But it was frustrating. Again, I hate watching competitors get broken like this because I understand there's a ton on the line, but it is always frustrating when you tap anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, you just got injured and now like.
Well, and as someone who isn't the best at always tapping, because I have tendency to do that, I will fight through things and tap. What's for me problematic is watching people not defend something and then have their shit get broken.
Davis looked
and
like
then
he was,
tap.
Yeah, he looked like he was trying to kind of heel slip. It wasn't working, and then Ryan like goes through his leg, and then Davis kind of defends a little more, and then taps, and it was just a weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
It was weird to watch a guy at Davis's level, that's from Davis's camp, not be more like proactive in the speed in which he was defending, and Aiken's got great control.
Yeah, and when you've watched Aiken do it all week,
yeah,
I would think you would be like, you're not breaking, Well, I guess that was early in the week when I think about it, because that was like day one.
That was day one
that it happened.
I think it was one of the first matches.
He's a big dude.
Yeah,
to be
he's
wrapped
also
up
got
on
phenomenal
your
leg locks, and we know that. And Davis historically has had some problems with his leg lock defense. So it was odd. The defense was odd. It looked like the heel slip didn't work, and then he taps. So, but Marcin Maciulewicz versus Davis. Sorry, this one was their first match was later in the week when Davis was all taped up from this.
It was either the same day or the next day.
I think it was the next day.
Yeah.
Is what it was. Is what I think it was. I saw the highlight the next day.
Yeah.
And then Marcin locks a heel hook in, and Davis is much more quick to tap here. Obviously, I think because he has a big sprain or something that's torn in his leg after that, which again, I like to see guys tapping earlier to stuff, especially if there's a pre-existing injury. So they meet a third time, and then
a second time.
Sorry, they meet a second time, and Davis gets ankle locked or like an Aoki lock from Marcin. But again, it was one of those, the same kind of issue is, well, he's already injured from earlier in the week. He's still competing. He's replacing Kyle Boehm.
Yeah.
He's tapping much more quickly to stuff because he has an injury now. It's like, okay, like had he not been injured, like I wonder how this match would have looked. Again, Marcin takes it. I think these guys might have met at trials before.
It wouldn't surprise me.
But I think they might be a weight class apart. I forget which
they might be
trials.
It would have been European.
Yeah, because they're both
Marcin
European.
would have been European.
And he's Norwegian. Davis is Norwegian and Marcin's Polish.
I always forget that he's,
Yeah, I thought Davis was 77 and Marcin was 88, but they could both be 77 or 80. I don't remember. It's not important. Marcin moves on. Marcin looked phenomenal. His highlights are going around this weekend for this entire tournament, and it was neat. Next match, we had Ernesto Riviera versus Chris Wojcik. And Chris is able to get... it was hard to kind of see this one because it was on the outside edge of the mat. Looks like a variation of like an Aoki straight ankle lock.
Yeah.
On the outside leg. And again, Chris Wojcik also looked really good this weekend. 5 subs. 4 joint locks, 1 choke, and then one of them within the first minute of the match, which they call elbow genie.
Yeah.
Which again gives you additional points. I like it. Incentivizes people to finish faster, which is cool.
So Marcin was in 99 kilograms.
Was he under 99?
Yeah. He took the
it wouldn't have been 77.
99.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been 77. My bad. Yeah, because he was also in the absolute bracket for Polaris.
Yeah.
And he was on the smaller side there, but wasn't tiny.
Yeah.
He was very comparable to Bodoni.
Yeah.
In their sizing.
Which actually means Paul Ardilla doesn't... No, he wins 99.
Yeah, 99.
Okay.
He was 88 prior. He's won to 88 before, but I think last time he was under 99 for East Coast Trials.
Yeah.
So in the semifinals, we have Ryan Aiken versus Paul Ardilla.
Both from Atlanta. Both black belts from Atlanta.
That was kind of cool. I like that.
So it made me... I never looked into it, but I wanted to see if they had seen each other before. But I think they run in 2 different circles because I think Ardilla... I haven't seen him in a lot of EBI stuff.
No.
And I think Ryan Aiken is
maybe earlier I think you've seen him in, but it would have been years ago.
Yeah. Ryan Aiken is almost always in everything.
He's in that 10th planet circle of those kind of tournaments. And then Ardilla's, we primarily see Ardilla. We talk about him at ADCC and ADCC trials. That's where we see Ardilla.
I don't really see him anywhere else because I don't think I see him at IBJJF either.
I don't remember offhand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they both kind of play passively, and then it goes to overtime. Again, I've given my thoughts on overtime for years. I don't like it. I don't really think it's that interesting. I don't think it's...
No, but Ryan Aiken, when he gets a hold of your back, he does not let you go.
Oh, he's a phenomenal overtime player. He's a phenomenal back taker.
If you want to watch how to control someone's back,
Dude. Watch all of Ardilla's matches, and then also watch Keith last week versus Jed Hugh. Like these are, again, it's a masterclass in that position, that positional dominance, and the ability to rack up ride time. Like Aiken, there is a reason why he is one of the best guys at CGI and one of the best guys at EBI.
Yeah.
Like he's really, really good at it. From a match perspective, it's not that interesting to me because he gets 2 minutes of ride time, 2 minutes of ride time, 2 minutes of ride time. It's like, okay, I'm watching. I would wish to have much rather watched a longer regulation match. For this one, I don't think it'd be any different. But
yeah, this is the match where I said when this is this is the first overtime match of like the whole of all the brackets.
Yeah,
and this is the one after. So in round 2 of overtime, Ardilla gets like Aiken in a fully locked out armbar, like legitimately dead to rights locked out armbar. And Ryan Aiken's just like, nope.
The defense was phenomenal.
Yeah,
I was he just slips out.
He slips out.
They even have a slow-mo replay after, and you're watching.
Yeah.
I was like, that was really tight. And he just like, just gets out.
He just gets out of it. And after that, he kind of like plops on the mat. And you can hear him and Eddie Bravo, and he's like, I'm an attorney. Somebody needs to get my attorney or something like that. He starts making attorney jokes. And then...
If you don't know that Paul Ardilla is a very, very good injury attorney out of Atlanta.
And then Eddie Bravo has to like pick him up, but he's like totally acting like a dead fish. Like he's just like not wanting to go anywhere. And they're like yelling at each other. It's pretty funny.
So that was that match.
Yeah.
Next one is Marcin Maciulewicz versus Chris Wojcik.
And Ryan Aiken wins on ride time.
Yeah.
I don't know if he said that or
Ryan
not.
Aiken wins the whole thing on ride time. Everything forward here, he wins on ride time.
Yeah, basically.
Marcin Maciulewicz versus Chris Wojcik, they were on the same team in the entire event.
Yeah.
It was very, very close in ride time. Again, I was more interested in the regulation.
Yeah.
Really good leg locks back and forth.
But I think with this match, what it showed you in round 2... In round 2, we have a situation where Marcin tries to go for the arm, like he has the back, and he tries to go for the arm bar because he thinks that's what's going to win, and Chris gets out really fast. And that little error in round 2 is part of the reason why he didn't win, because he wins by like 23. Chris Wojcik wins by like 23 seconds.
Yeah, it was very, very close.
And part of it was that Marcin was trying to go for a sub really quick rather than just holding on to him and playing the game.
Yeah, unfortunately, like that's what the problem is with one of the reasons I don't like overtime is because the good guys, you're really incentivized to just kind of hold. Like that's like you are more likely, I think, and we can look at the numbers here one of these days. I think you're more likely to win via ride time than you are via sub. Like it's a better strategy because and
in that round Marcin has the body triangle and he lets go of his body triangle to try to go after one of Chris's arms, and that's enough for Chris to get out. And that's one of those things where like if he did sub only and did ride time things all the time, then he might not make that mistake. He might hold him there. But him thinking, I want to sub him, I want to get him done,
which is what I want to see. And so it makes overtime. It kind of is the exact opposite of what overtime was invented for anyway, where it's like, oh, you're trying to sub the guy, versus now because ride time is a criteria and you're only starting on the back, it's like, well, your best strategic option is to hold for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that interesting. And I wish we would stop doing overtime. I wish we would find another way to do it because it makes it, you're not incentivized to go for subs in overtime because you're going to lose. That's how that's strategically, what you should be doing. Yeah. So finals match, we have Ryan Aiken versus Chris Wojcik. They had a bunch of matches prior. They've had a bunch of matches prior. Thank you, Miranda, for finding all of these. Yeah. At ADCC West Coast Trials 2024, Wojcik wins a referee's decision over Ryan Aiken. Again, much different format than what we see Aiken have his best success in. Chris Wojcik, B team, we know that those guys are focusing primarily on ADCC. Why he's able to win a decision there. Ryan wins fastest escape time at Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds in December of 2023.
And that might have been Wojcik not with B team yet.
I
Because he goes to B team
in 23 at some point.
Yeah,
was it 24 or 23?
I don't
think
know. Sometime I think it's
right around here.
right around there.
But he wouldn't have been there a huge amount of time at that point.
Because he was in
match.
Chicago, and then he went from Chicago down there,
Mm-hmm.
and that's about around the time. And that's the only reason I say that is because then he has 2 losses to Ryan Aiken
earlier in 2022.
in 2022,
and then earlier in 2022 via heel hook.
Yeah.
So it is interesting to kind of watch their history.
Yeah.
And again, I will go back and watch, actually kind of see how the dynamic changes. This one ends again in right. You want to talk about the regulation or just move to overtime?
We can talk about it. The one thing that I realized, and I never thought about this before, was that Chris kept on going for a false reap. My assumption, and I didn't wind up going back and watching the ADCC match, is that he must have had some kind of success in the past with because he wasn't doing that to other people. Like
you saw him doing it specifically for Ryan. And you're like, what about this? Are you seeing that you really want to go for this? He was trying to false reap him for whatever reason.
Yeah. And what I didn't realize is that if you go double unders when somebody has a false reap, you can't do anything.
Just stops it.
Yeah, it just stops.
Yeah, kind of. It's a pancake flat almost. So you just kind of they can't finish making that inversion. You just kind of push it, and he also is tall too.
Yeah,
and he can get double unders there and push. So yeah, an interesting counter meta.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing.
They go to overtime, and Ryan Aiken wins via ride time, which is how he's won the rest of them, because that's what you should be doing. He's a beautiful control artist. We see as the rounds go on. First round,
Chris gets better and better as time goes on. Yeah, getting out.
But Ryan still gets out immediately.
Like
8 seconds, 10 seconds, 8 seconds. First round, Chris gets out in a minute 50 of 2 minutes. Second round, Chris gets out in a minute or 2. Third round, he gets out in 4.5 seconds. So he's figuring it out.
There was a couple of those escapes that I was like, because like they were saying he was escaped when his hips still weren't turned completely.
Yeah, only the chest was square.
Yeah, and I'm a weirdo with like when I do matches, I want them to be actually facing. Like I want hips.
You have to go face to face.
I want hips and shoulders to be facing the same direction.
This is the weird.
And some people call me on that because they're like, "Well, he's out." I'm like, "No, he's not. He needs to be turned into him."
You got to turn his hips. You got to turn your hips.
Your hips to be turned because I can turn my shoulders without turning my hips.
Yeah.
Does that make me out? No. You're still fucking. They still have your back.
This is kind of what, again, another one I probably
not saying that Aiken wouldn't have won. Aiken would have won probably anyway.
Yeah.
But I feel like a couple of the times he was not.
It just introduces that. It introduces the decision problem that overtime was trying to get rid of in the first place. Was like, well, what's escaped? It's like, well, is he close? Is
because
he
he
not?
would start. But the other thing is he would start bitching at Eddie Bravo when he would get his shoulders out. Mm-hmm. He would start talking. Like, I'm out, and I was like, no, you're not. Yeah. No, you're not, dude. But it was just, to me, that was weird, but whatever.
Yeah. Eddie Bravo knows his criteria. I think for me, if you're going to do overtime, you're going to have Bravo, and Bravo is going to have a consistency of approach. Was like, if he doesn't consider hips out, like I would consider hips out, but if he's the ref and he's doing it for all of them. Yeah. If that is his criteria, at least we're consistent. Yeah. I don't like it, but
no one else tried to chill at that point. Everybody else would just immediately roll and get to would
finish it.
Yeah. Where for whatever reason, at least in this match, Aiken kept on just getting his shoulders out and his hips were still kind of turned, and he would start and I don't know if that was strategic or if he was just tired and he was just done.
Or if he was like, I'm out. This is the criteria that we've explained, and this is out. Yeah. Like, I am not required to get my hips out, so I'm done. Which, if you're an athlete and you're in that situation, I'm absolutely going to go, hey, I'm out. Why? Because the criteria that we have established is this. My hips don't matter. It is only my chest. Yeah. Again, it's sort of the flavor of overtime, and one of the kind of many gripes I have with it is that it's not super necessarily consistent across all organizations.
I don't think it would have really changed I don't think at all. A lot. But
I mean, you have Ryan, if your shoulders are out, usually you're going to finish that turn in the next couple of seconds unless someone can recapture you. If he's getting out in under 10 seconds most of the time, that first overtime of 1:50 is going to be really hard to make up unless Chris can wildly change his strategy, which we didn't really see him do across the other overtimes. But Ryan Aiken takes the whole thing. Again, he was one of, I don't know if he was our front runner in here, but we knew he definitely had the skills to do this because of his experience in the rule set. He's really good at it. If you want to win in overtime in EBI, there's like, he's one of the probably top 5 or 6 guys to watch. You watch Gordon, you watch Nicky Rod, you watch Ryan Aiken, you watch Kyle Bame is honestly phenomenal at it, and you watch you watch Andy Varela. Like, those are the guys to watch win and do overtime because they're phenomenal at it.
Yeah.
You know, some of the best in the world. So that was PGF. Again, it was great. It was a little long.
It's always a little long.
But I really like what they're doing with it. I wish that they would, on the finals day, have streamlined it a lot more. There was it's about a 2.5 hour event. I wish they would have really tightened it up because we have like huge swaths of time between matches that I would love. I would love to have like almost a super cut day one. Hey man, day one's an hour. Like it's boom. Here are the finals. We are gonna run it. If they need to pad for time, hey, add a super fight. They had a couple of super fights here that were fun. But there was a lot of dead time in the event. They were filling with commentary, which was great. But I would love to see more matches if the event's gonna be that long, especially after the week that these athletes have had. Yeah. So PGF is great. Again, I love to see people getting paid, which is one of the reasons I really enjoy covering PGF, because athletes get paid, multiple athletes get paid, and you have finals like this where Ryan Aiken gets paid. So this is how you have professional grapplers.
Twice.
Is he on the winning team too?
Yeah, he's on the winning team too.
Oh, he is on the winning team.
So he won $40,000.
And he's the top scorer, so I think it's a bonus as well for that.
Probably, yeah.
Which is like,
I don't think it's money. I think it's something.
Pride.
Yeah.
Wait, no, he's not on the winning team. Oh, Ryan Aiken, you're right. Jeez.
He is.
Thank you, Miranda.
No worries.
Yeah. So Ryan Aiken made bank. Good for Ryan Aiken. Phenomenal. He knows how to do it, and he is extremely hard to beat in this rule set. So, anything else on the event?
Nope.
Let's move on to Midwest finishers. Two matches to talk about here. Layla Watkins defeats Emily Rosalind via this was the armbar. Yeah, the armbar. She is the new 125-pound champ. This was great work from Layla Watkins late in the match. They've had a really good back and forth so far. And Layla Watkins realizes, I think, that Emily is a little, like, the speed is slowed down a little bit on the top. And Emily is beginning to kind of come back to address Layla Watkins' guard. And Layla Watkins kind of does like a half arm drag and just shoots her hips up and gets essentially just an armbar from the guard. Yeah. And the timing was great. And the ability to identify that, like, someone is kind of pacing is slowed down a little bit and you can pull that arm in and just come underneath. The inversion is great here for the arm. Emily grabs the hands together, tries to defend, goes for the stack, but Layla stays on it, able to flip Emily all the way over. And then what I really liked about the sequence here was, that the camera work is amazing on Midwest finishers. I love the mat side next to the athlete's camera. Yeah. I think, honestly, for like organizations that stream on YouTube, Midwest Finishers has some of the best camera work of any org we cover. And so big props to those guys for putting out an event like this. Layla has a really, really nice grip break where it's a grip break that I like. Maybe it was why I like it. She gets her foot in, she pushes on the outside bicep, and she kicks it off while she pulls the arm forward. It is such an effective grip break. And I've done it, but I've watched my wife use it a ton for years because she's like, yeah, I'm not going to ever break your arm grip with like my hands. Yeah. I need my feet. And so my wife has been stomping me in the arms for years. And so whenever it comes up, I like to see it. Really nice arm like grip break finishes. She's now the new 125-pound champion for Midwest Finishers. And again, just capitalizes on a regard. And it was a very, very nice final match. I think it's right at the end. Both of these matches we're going to talk about right at the end. This one precedes the men's 155 bracket match, but again, I love that Midwest Finishers having their female champs back to defend these belts on a regular basis. Anything on that one? Nope. All right, let's move on. McGrath versus Lucas Jones. This is for the men's 155-pound bracket. We're not going to talk about the rest of the matches in the bracket. I just want to talk about the finals because this is a super, super interesting transition. Yeah. And you were like, watch it again. Because I watched it first. I was like, that's neat. And you're like, watch it how he sets this up. Yeah. And
only because this is my jam. Not my jam. I would like this to be my jam. Let's say it that way. This is what I'm trying to teach myself at this point. Because I can do Choi bars and I can do Tarika Platas. But I've never realized you could put them together.
He links them together. So basically, Andrew sets up an arm saddle on the cross side. Andrew McGrath is New Wave. Lucas Jones is Mat Factory. Yeah. and Andrew McGrath sets up from bottom, like half guard-ish,
Yeah.
sets up an arm saddle on the far side arm. Lucas Jones deals with that, squares up, comes in, and then Andrew goes, okay, you've identified it. He throws his outside leg all the way over for the Choi bar,
Yeah.
which is coming into favor, and a lot of people from this position will use the Choi bar because you're stuck with your hand inside their guard,
Yeah.
defending out of the arm saddle. And then Lucas Jones does, okay, cool, I have to defend this, hands together and starts to stack and go where you kind of should go to defend the Choi bar, like a traditional to stack them under the neck. And then Andrew goes from here. He traps Lucas's arm all the way across his body and like almost like you're going to do a splitter or a slicer on it, which is what I like from here. And then goes out the back all the way through and ends up in a Tarico Plata off of the Choi bar because the grip that he has, he can trap the arm to his body before he makes the spin over for his legs to get the Tarico Plata.
Yep.
And he just ends up on top with it and finishes the Tarico Plata. I do not ever recall having seen a Choi bar turn into a Tarico Plata like this.
I've seen it with the movement arts guys, but it's in IBJJF. I've seen them do it.
Okay.
Probably in both gi and no gi when I think about it. But
I mean,
I've
is
seen
no-gi.
them.
It's viable. It's
I've
viable
seen
to do.
them do it only because I was like, I want to learn this one day.
You have a timestamp for us.
Yeah.
It's at 3 hours and 18 minutes from the main event. I think they'll probably part this match out as well into an individual match on YouTube, but it's a really neat little setup.
Yeah,
And I watched it a bunch of times and I was like, oh, that's really nifty because again, Lucas Jones is doing everything that he kind of should be doing in this sequence, but Andrew can keep taking more and more kind of ground in the Choi bar and then eventually steps over, finishes, and goes Tarico Plata on it.
Yeah, and the other thing is, like, if you're, to the smaller grapplers, if you're in a gym with a bunch of big people, Tarico Platas and Barada Platas both are amazing because you're using your legs and your entire body versus their arm and their shoulder.
Yeah, you can kind of lock onto it. It was definitely one of the more neat transitions of the week.
Except you'll get people that learn what you're doing and they'll kind of like open their arm up. That's the only way I can.
They'll like open and slide you off.
As long as they if they open their arm off and don't like defend their arm, then they can normally like pop it open. That's what they started doing to me, and I was like, oh, fuck.
They figured out the strat.
Yeah, but I might just have to like armbar from there then. I think that's what I normally do anyway. But
it was a neat finish. Andrew McGrath is now the men's 155-pound champion at Midwest Finishers. Again, really cool sub in the finals. Leading into that, Lucas gets 2 buggy chokes to go into the finals, and Andrew beat his teammate, Reese LaFleur, by toe hold to get into the finals. So, again, I haven't got a chance to watch all of the tournament so far, but again, love Midwest Finishers, love what they're doing, and it's really, really cool to have 2 championship-level finishes.
I would like
this.
to know how heavy their chains are, because they do this whole, like, chain
I know, I
thing.
love the chains.
Like, I was like, how heavy is that
They look
chain?
super heavy,
They
and I
look
like
crazy
that.
heavy, but I don't know if it actually is or not.
So, anything else on Midwest Finishers?
Nope, that's it.
All right, let's move into the preview section of the show. Let's kick it off with we want to do Crown, Karate Cup. Where you want to start?
We'll start with the Crown.
We're going to start with the Crown. We have a men's featherweight division that is stacked. On the left-hand side of the bracket, first round, we have Pato, Diego Oliveira, going against Cashinho, Oswaldo Musinho. On the lower end of that bracket, same side, we have Shane Jamil Hill Taylor versus, I love how I can't even see the name.
Pico.
Pico Gomez?
Yeah.
Gomes?
No, maybe, yes.
The Instagram has the face over it, so I can't actually.
Click the little icon. Click the little thing. Oh, it doesn't go.
No,
away.
it only has 2 people tagged in it for some reason.
Let me look.
So, on the other side of the bracket, we have Canada Maceo Cabrera Jr. versus João Mendes. And on the lower side of that bracket, we have Ademir Barreto versus Eduardo Guetzotto. This, I
Dude,
think,
why did they do this?
is Pato's bracket to lose.
No, it's Marco.
Who is it?
Marco Mendes.
Marco Mendes.
Okay.
Oh yeah. I can see O and S is the only thing I can see here.
the little tag icon is like right over his name.
Yeah.
There we go.
If I expand the page,
Yeah.
I can see it now. Yep. Marco Mendes. I think this is Pato's to lose. We haven't seen a lot from Shane recently, but he's been competing. He's finally got over his injuries.
I think it'll be Pato versus Kennedy.
I think it's Pato and Kennedy in the finals most likely, and I think these guys have gone back and forth in IBJJF. But
Kennedy
man.
Kennedy also has
His dad,
no, his new
Mikey.
Mikey.
Yeah, Mikey's in his corner now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
And like, if Kennedy is as crazy as Mikey is, they might train like 12 hours a day every single day of their lives.
It wouldn't.
You know what I mean?
And also now Mikey's at a 1. So
Yeah.
Mikey might be preparing in the gi more. He might be doing a lot other stuff.
It wouldn't surprise me if
Yeah.
it wasn't like,
a crazy training room suddenly for those two guys.
Yeah.
Again, I think it's Pato versus Kennedy here in the finals.
Yeah.
I would love to see Shane kind of get back on the winning ways. But I really think that Diego and Kennedy are super hard to bet against here. For the women's lightweight division, we have Jana Libre on the top left-hand corner of the bracket versus Victoria Assis. We have Cassia Mora versus what is that?
Thanara
Victoria. Cassia Mora is the one we talked about that was on Fight Pass Invitational.
Yes.
Got her black belt in like 3 years because she won
She wins worlds.
World Nogi.
Yeah, worlds.
Worlds no, and to get
Yeah.
from blue to black, and it was just like she circumvented the IBJJF time requirement by winning Worlds
And
and
I
Nogi
think she
Worlds.
was a child too, so
Yeah.
not like child, but like teenage child.
Yeah.
So it's like a crazy one.
Other side of the bracket, we have Brenda St. Marie versus Jane Fragroso. We have Gabby McComb versus Victoria Vieira. I'm super curious what Cassia Mora is gonna look like against the black belt women.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we can see women come into the black belt like and have a couple years of like stepping stone, like having like they gotta get their feet under them. Other times we see that they punch through and immediately world champion.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really curious about like what Cassia Mora looks like in this bracket. Also Brandon St. Marie. I think that if Brandon St. Marie can beat Gabby McComb on that side of the bracket, we're going to see the finals. I think this on the other side of the bracket will be Jana Libre versus Cassia Mora, and then the winner of Gabby McComb versus Brandon St. Marie.
Yeah.
I'm really, really curious. I kind of want to do what you do, Miranda, and go dark horse pick.
Yeah.
Go Cassia Mora. Just because I was astonishingly impressed with a few matches that I've seen of her, and also the ability to run through that level of competition as quickly as she has. I'm kind of interested to see if she can continue at a black belt.
Victoria Assis, that's on the other side, is very good too, but I think she's outsized. I think she's normally a little...
Not a women's lightweight?
Yeah, I don't think she's a lightweight. I think she's either a feather or...
Light feather,
something like that.
Yeah. It'll be a fun bracket.
Because she's a newer black belt too.
Yeah.
But I think she's outsized by some of these ladies.
In the men's middleweight division, this is a wild bracket. Upper right hand corner we have Tynan Daupra versus Gabriel Galvao, and then on the lower end side of that bracket we have Elijah Dorsey versus Mateus Luna. Other side of the bracket we have Andy Murasaki versus Jamie Canuto, and we have Mauricio Oliveira versus Manuel Hibamar. So we're all going Tynan Daupra.
Of course.
I think it's by Gabriel Galvao. I think it's Mateus Luna versus Elijah Dorsey.
Yeah.
I kind of think that it will be Elijah.
You think? I think Mateus.
You think Mateus beats him in gi?
Dude, Mateus, he puts more points up on people than, like, I don't know. I think
Dorsey just has a really frustrating game.
Yeah.
It's very hard to plan around. And so, like,
True.
he's been winning a lot more with that on, like, really small margins, but also, like, in the rule set that he competes in, he knows how to get it done.
It could really be either of them.
I am curious, actually, how Tynan Daupra will deal with both these guys.
Yeah.
I think he's gone against both before. I think he has wins over both.
He should. I mean,
But
he's
I'm curious.
He's only lost 2 matches.
But we're in middleweight. I don't know how many people are coming in. Again, I have my gi weight classes are always more confusing now than my nogi weight classes because nogi just uses them. It's either ADC weight classes or MMA weight classes for nogi, and then for IBJJF they have their own kind of collection of weight classes that 8 years of this show still kind of messing up.
I know because they're all like off. They're not.
Yeah.
They're not exactly what you think.
They're not. They're
would be.
weird kilos and weird pounds.
Well, they're weird pounds because they're kilos.
But even they're weird. It's like this many. It's like not exact kilos either.
Yeah, true.
It's just like it's a weird arbitrary thing. So regardless, I think that Tynan Daupra takes it because he is Tynan Daupra, and unless you are Jansen Gomez or a knee injury, You can't.
No, a fake knee.
Or sorry, or a DQ for picture 18 in the IBJJF rulebook.
Yeah.
Which is illegal, and Dauper doesn't do
Now,
it again.
Jonathan Alves is going against Elijah Dorsey.
Okay, I remember that match.
So, and Jonathan is teammates with Tynan Dauper, right?
Yes. AOJ.
No. Yeah. AOJ.
Yeah, AOJ.
Yeah.
On the other side of the bracket, this is a weird one. Andy Murasaki versus Jamie Canuto. It could go either way. I'm going to give the nod to Andy Murasaki. I like the activity and the pacing he's been putting on. He's been putting up really, really good performances in the gi. Even giving Miki Gaval a run for his money there for a couple of those tournaments.
Yeah.
Mauricio Oliveira versus Manuel Hibamar. This, for me, is a toss-up match that is going to... It's going to be one of those, like, it either immediately goes Hibamar from the guard on top, or it goes Mauricio Oliveira with passing.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be a tale of two. Like, this is how it's going to go. I think it's going to be a small margin.
But unfortunately, I don't think either of them is going to win against Andy Murasaki.
Yeah, I think Murasaki takes. I think we get a match between Murasaki and Tynan Dauper.
Yeah.
Are they both AOJ, or is Murasaki Atos?
Murasaki's Atos.
Yeah.
I think.
So it'd be an old school, like previous teammates. Matchup. I'm going Tynan unless you're Jansen Gomez. I'm going Tynan Dauper.
Yeah.
Like an upset would be huge, but it's Tynan Dauper. Like he's shown that he's fairly unbeatable in the gi.
Yeah.
He's just hard to beat.
And
guys can't do it.
And they've won against each other. They went against each other in the 2023 IBJJF Crown.
Mm-hmm.
They've gone against each other at Worlds. All kinds of. They've gone against each other multiple times.
So I think I'm taking. picking Dauper here.
Yeah, we're picking.
Okay.
I don't bet against Dauper unless
either.
There's a reason to bet against.
Unless Jansen Gomez is in the bracket, and then even then, I'm probably going Dauper still. Next up, men's heavyweight division. We have my guy Adam Wardzinski taking on Mateus Spirandelli. That is on the top right hand side of the bracket. Other side, lower right hand side of the bracket, we have Orlando Montero versus Paulo Berlin. On the left side of the bracket, we have Gustavo Batista versus Mateus Rodriguez. And on the lower side, we have Patrick Gaudia versus Ryder Zucchi. I think we end up with a finals of Wardzinski and Batista.
Yeah, that's what I thought so too.
Wardzinski beat Felipe Andrew and finally figured it out. I think there are very few guys that can now beat Adam Wardzinski with the game that he plays. And kind of the same for Gustavo Batista.
Yeah.
Current world champion, just knows how to get it done. I think matchups with him... with Patrick Gaudio and Ryder Zucchi are interesting on that side of the bracket, but I do think that Batista will be able to get it done. I do think this will be Wardzinski versus Batista in the finals. I want to go Wardzinski.
I want to go Wardzinski too because if you think about it, when do you see Wardzinski training without his gi? He always trains in the gi, almost always. And I think doesn't Bautista do both?
I think so.
He does gi and no gi.
Oh, we've seen Adam. We've seen do trials in ADCC, but yeah,
but he really doesn't like.
He's much more. They've
of a
offered
gi player.
Things.
I think CJJ or
CJI.
Yeah, I think they offered him, and he was like,
Nah, I'm a gi guy.
Like, yeah, I think he does. I mean, he's generally a gi guy, and I think he competes like every weekend. He's been winning like every weekend.
That's a good point.
You know what I mean?
He is really consistent on the IBJJF circuit.
Because he's kind of moved over to the United States, and he's just been competing constantly.
I'm picking Wardzinski. Wardzinski is one of my favorite guys. Again, I love the game he plays. I've been watching him since brown belt with his butterfly guard game.
I mean, the only bad part about it is that he kind of is like some of the other ones where there's so much film on him.
You know exactly
what's going to happen.
But he is going to do.
But I think he's so good at doing it that you might even know it's happening and not be able to do anything about it.
Yeah. I think Batista can absolutely
and it's IBJJF.
Get it done. But I kind of just think Wardzinski... let me go this way. This is another Miranda gut pick. I just like Wardzinski. He's just... I don't like to pick against Wardzinski. I just like his game. I like him. So I'm going to go Wardzinski here.
Me too.
On next one, we have women's super heavyweight division. We have Gabriele Pasana versus Mayra Codosto. First round, we have Tamara Silva versus Giovanni Jara. On the other side of the bracket, we have Natalia Jesus versus Maria Vicente. We have Melissa Stricker versus Isabel Limos. This is Gabriela Pasana.
Yeah.
No one has beat her. No one knows how to beat her with any consistency. In the gi, she won the last crown. Even beat Amy Campos in that last crown.
Yeah, I don't think you
I think there are pathways to beat her, but no one has showed with any consistency in the last couple of years that they know how to do it.
If Natalia, or how you say that?
Natielli.
If Natielli didn't take time off to have a baby, though I can't really say that now that we've seen what's it called, have a baby and come back and win everything.
Fucking Elizabeth Clay.
Yeah. So,
17
but
weeks.
she beat Gabby Garcia when no one thought she could beat Gabby Garcia.
Yeah.
And then she took the time off. But she has, if anybody has the ability, I think it's her.
Yeah,
but,
I do too. It wouldn't surprise me to watch Natielli be in this whole thing, but again, this is one of those. Yeah. It's the Tynan Doppel problem. No one has shown me that they can beat her in the gi, and until someone does, I just don't want to make that pick. I think she's beatable in the gi, but you have to come in with a very, very good game plan, and you cannot let her get to the guard on you. Yeah. You can't let her get close guard on you because she's strong enough. She's going to pull you down. She's not going to let you ever get your game going. And if a woman like Amy Campo can get pulled into that game, man, there's not a lot of women who can't.
And that's one of the IBJJF problems. Like, and as a competitor, you know this problem is if you have somebody who knows how to pull you into guard, it is now your burden to pass that guard. Yeah. And as you try to pass that guard, and as you get more pissed off trying to pass that guard, you're gonna do something. They're gonna get a advantage on you, and now you lost. Yep. And that's all. Knows how to play that game. That's all you got to do. Yeah. So I keep on telling myself that because, you know, I could probably play that game. I just like refuse to do it.
I want to do jiu-jitsu.
I know. I want to like do fun shit. Yeah. I don't want to just do that.
But Pisana's a monster to beat. Almost. I mean, until someone can beat her, and then honestly, beat her more than once. Yeah. I'm gonna go Pisana for any division that she can make. Honestly. Moving on to the men. Anything else on that bracket?
Nope.
Men's ultra heavyweight division. This one I'm really excited about. We have Eric Muniz versus Christoph Suss in the first round. We have Pedro Machado versus Ketret Duvo. We have on the other side of the bracket, and this side of the bracket is the one that I'm really amped for. Gutenberg Pereira versus Felipe Costa. That's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah. I like we have Gutenberg Pereira, who's now at AOJ, versus Little Orange, which is Sanji's guy who looked really good at ADCC. I commentated a bunch of his matches in Virginia here at a tournament when he was a brown belt. So like flew into Brazil for like this tournament that I was commentating. Yeah. Won the whole thing. And I was like, who is this guy? Oh, he's a really, really good world level brown belt. And then went on. That's him.
And then at ADCC, he did really, really well at championships. And everybody was like, holy shit, who's this guy?
And he had the orange jersey on. That's him.
All this, we were around a bunch of Ribeiro guys. Yeah. That were really into him and screaming Portuguese things we didn't understand.
Yeah, so that first round matchup on that side is super exciting to me. On the lower end of the bracket, we have Marcus Ribeiro versus Roosevelt Souza. That is fun. I think Souza takes that. Souza has looked phenomenal recently. So I think, I honestly, for Gutenberg versus Felipe Costa, I don't know. They both guys, every outing we see, look better and better and better and better and better. I think Felipe Costa he's rapidly rising, rapidly improving, newer black belt. Yeah. Gutenberg Pereira now with a new team. He's a veteran. He knows how to deal with all situations. Can he lock down Felipe Costa well enough to prevent Felipe Costa from being able to pass and get his game going? Yes. But also maybe not. Yeah. And that's sort of where I sit with that matchup of like, it's the young gun versus the veteran. Yeah. At heavyweight. And more so than not, usually the veterans are the ones that take these.
Well, at a heavier
weight class. Yeah. Look at Cyborg. Look at Lovato.
Yeah.
Look at like
a lighter weight class, you have the whole speed and
killing of the old king. The younger weight classes, man. The older weight classes, man. I kind of want to go. I go Gutenberg here, but watching Felipe Costa beat him wouldn't surprise me either. I think the winner of that has to deal with Roosevelt Souza, and I think Roosevelt Souza has also looked in rare form the last like 18 months. Extremely hard to beat. I think Eric Muniz takes his side of the bracket. Yeah, he is. The bracketing on this is a little odd. I don't know how they really did it. I think you should have probably popped at least one of the other guys on the left side of the bracket over to the right side of the bracket. I think Eric Muniz takes the whole thing. I
wonder if he will wear his Jesus ski.
Maybe. I always get him and his brother mixed up. Eric versus Anderson.
Yeah.
I always forget who the more winningest one is.
Eric.
Is Eric the more winning one?
I think so. I think Eric's the one that wins super heavy every year.
Okay.
Because he normally goes against Gutenberg. It's him and Gutenberg in World's Finals in the gi.
And Eric wins.
In the gi.
Again, unfortunately, I think Eric takes the whole thing. Not unfortunately. I think like we've seen the matchup before. I think Eric takes the whole thing. I think IBJJF is his game. He can entangle you with lapels. He can slow you down, and eventually he can get the sweep going. I think that's kind of how it works for everyone in his bracket so far. I kind of would like to see Eric Muniz versus Roosevelt Souza in the gi. I think that would be a really neat matchup to have in the finals. I think that the Roosevelt Souza is willing to kind of power through stuff in a way that a lot of the other guys in his division will not be willing to.
Yeah.
But I do think that Eric Muniz takes this whole thing in this whole bracket.
Oh, I always forget that the Felipe Costas guy, his first name's actually Casio.
Yeah.
That's why. Okay, now
Yeah.
I know who he is. You said Little Orange, and then I knew exactly who he was.
I figured you. I know you like the nicknames.
I
so
like the
that's why.
nicknames, and for whatever reason, the nicknames normally tell me who people are. Like I know Eric Muniz is the Jesus ski.
Yeah. Soldier of Christ.
Soldier of Christ.
That's what it is.
Yes, Soldier of Christ.
Soldier of Christ.
Yeah.
That's the gi that he wears at Worlds every year. So that's IBJJF Crown. It's good. This is actually a really, really good crown. Again, I'm happy that IBJJF is finally, after years of kind of not, having some more paid tournaments and paid events to give back to their community and to the athletes, to give them pro events to compete in and work in. It's great. I would love this event to not be filmed in a dark back room. I'd love to have put some more lights
it's in
on
LA.
this one.
It's at the pyramid.
Yeah. So hopefully the lighting's good.
Yeah.
It would be horrific if it was not, but we've seen a couple of crowns that are super poorly lit. I hope this one is lit well. Again, the brackets are phenomenal. The brackets look really, really great. So that's happening this week. Let's move on to anything else on the crown, Miranda?
Nope.
Let's move on to Karate Combat, then move on to main character. Karate Combat, 2 matchups this weekend. We have Rodrigo Capral versus Nala Guantino. And we have Magomed Mateo versus Junyoung Kim. Again, more opportunities to us to see matches in the pit.
Yeah.
I do not know if we're going to get a chance to cover this next week. This one's in Bangkok.
Yeah.
So the fight should be
and it's
phenomenal
during
on
the
it.
week. Yeah.
But again, I love hit submission. If we get a chance to cover it, we will. We just have a lot of stuff coming next
And
week.
it's free on YouTube.
But it is free on YouTube. We also have main character 5. This one takes place in Austin, Texas. Main evented by Gio Martinez versus Gianni Grippo.
I think Gianni Grippo
I
is going to
think
win.
Gianni takes this. The question is, do we think he's able to submit Gio Martinez?
Yes.
Do you think he gets the head and arm on him?
Yes.
Okay.
He does it to everyone.
Grippo has looked so good the last couple years with his head and arm. He's getting better and better and better and better. And every time we see Grippo, it's the same sequence. He goes for that outside pass. You go into a leg lock on him. He passes off the leg lock.
Yeah.
He gets the side. He gets the mount. He gets the head and arm. He goes to the side. He finishes it. Now, Martinez is incredibly hard to finish. But I think that Grippo has a specific game that he's not going to let Martinez get going. And even on guys that can get going on Grippo, he's good enough in defense and in counter offense that I know he knows what Gio Martinez is going to bring to this matchup, and I think he's going to be able to take a win on this. Now, it could go to overtime, in which case it becomes a much more even match.
I don't remember.
What was Varela and Chen? Was that overtime? Was that first to score?
That was first to score, I thought.
Main character has changed. I think has changed its rules. I always forget. How they run it now. You went to one of them.
I did.
And I forget you went to Chen versus Varela,
I went
didn't you?
to Chen versus.
Yeah.
Okay, so all adult primary or preliminary matches, 6 minutes, sub only, no sub in regulation, then judge's decision.
Okay.
All main card matches are 8 minutes, submission only, with a 5-minute standard point OT round.
Oh, this is the points overtime.
Oh, it's the points overtime. That's what it is.
Yeah, I lean Grippo even harder here.
Yeah.
Grippo is a phenomenal, traditional player, IBJJF player. Yeah.
Because all he has to do is sweep.
Yeah.
And Martinez has to pull. They're both going to pull, right?
Yeah.
And then he just has to sweep.
Mm-hmm. Or pass. And Martinez is astonishingly hard to pass, but I think if there's anyone that can do it, I think Martinez matches up really poorly with Grippo, with the places and styles of how Grippo wants to play. And with Grippo being more aggressive in recent years, I think previously Martinez could have taken this because he would just put up more offense on Grippo. But now we've seen Grippo be more willing to kind of go gun for gun with you on some stuff.
Yeah.
And he's had a lot of success recently everywhere with that.
Yeah. I mean, minus him going against Colabate.
It's Colabate though.
But it's Colabate.
It doesn't count.
Yeah.
We don't remember that match. Also in this match, this card, we have a ladies 135-pound qualifier.
So the qualifier is the day before. So the qualifier is on the 16th. And the card is on the 17th.
Yeah.
So the qualifier.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay.
The qualifier is the day before.
The qualifier is baller. Do we know the qualifier streamed?
It is. Yes.
Okay.
And I forget where I saw it. I think Flow.
Okay. It was
I think it said Flow.
Really? Okay. So the qualifier has, I'm going to read some names. You'll recognize some of the names. This should be a lot of fun for the qualifier. The winner will then face Mo Black.
It's 100% free on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
And it's free to attend. So.
Watch this qualifier.
Yeah.
This is going to be a great women's 135-pound qualifier. Winner of this will face Mo Black for the title
the next day.
The next day on the main card that has Gianni Grippo and Gio Martinez and some other matches as well. We have, in the women's qualifier, we have Ali Wojcik, Nicole Matthew, Leilani.
Not Wolchik.
Wolski. I always want to call her Wojcik. Wolski.
They both train at the same gym, but to my knowledge, they're not involved.
Leilani Benales, who had a really good match against Nicole Matthews. They were most likely
Worlds at Brown Belt.
Yeah, they'll most likely be on opposite sides of the bracket. Given that match they had at Brown.
I don't know. They showed how they're going to bracket it, and they're ranking everybody in bracket.
Oh, okay.
And doing it that way, but I have no idea how that.
That match they had against Matthews for me puts Leilani up pretty high. In the rankings here, just based on how she looked against Matthews and how Matthews looked against everyone else recently.
Yeah, but Matthews has done very well otherwise. But yeah, that would put them on different ends. Even if they were close, like in the rankings, it would separate them.
Micah Vickers is on this. Michelle Jones. We have Clarena Horn, who is the 145
belt champion.
And she had some fun matches in that one. We have Lauren Sears. We have Jennifer Riviera. We have Rachel Smith. We have Carrie Elabali. Trinity Pun is in here as well at 135. We have Holly Martin. We have Anna Mordromo. And we have Talita Krawek as well on this.
Tatiana.
What'd I say? Talita. There's no L in there at all. Tatiana. This is a really, really good women's 135-pound bracket. There are 4 women here. They can absolutely take this. I will let you figure out who they are. But again, then they fight Mo Black the next day. Which is a tough ask, by the way. It's like, hey, beat all these really tough women in a bracket format and then fight Mo Black.
I guess if you're thinking about like ADCC, you have to compete 2 days in a row.
Yeah, it doesn't make it any easier.
No.
Makes it hard.
It's still rough.
And then Mo Black's fresh and ready to go.
Yeah.
You're like, I got to fight the woman who qualified.
Yeah.
Okay, bring it on. It'll be fun.
But this event's at a rodeo, so, it's good times.
We also have Chris Wojcik.
Which we wonder how he is after the last week of his life.
Versus Nick Ortiz, which would be a fun matchup. It's a former B-team guy versus a current B-team guy. Both in Austin, Texas. So they're.
Oh, I didn't think about that. That is.
It is. Makes it very interesting suddenly.
That's a little spicy.
I do not know if they were there at the same time. Ortiz might have left prior to.
I think so.
Wojcik.
Because
coming in.
Ortiz left right around the same time that
Isaac Michelle left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was before Wojcik came in.
I think so. Yeah, I think that was in 22.
Yeah. Because I remember Wojcik joining B-Team after he went toe-to-toe with PJ Barch at submission only series.
Oh, yeah. SOS.
And then after that was seeming to be the amount of time, like when he started switching over.
We also have a fun matchup in Renee Souza versus Jet Thompson, who looked really good in the last PGF.
Dude, Jet Thompson.
He's like 17.
Is he even 17?
He's a young guy. And he has a really fun style. And Renee Souza, I think, also has a very fun style. This is gonna be the battle of the buggy choke versus like Jet Thompson's willing to kind of fight you anywhere and has crazy good arm bars and leg locks.
Yes, his straight, like I forget, he does a very specific straight ankle that's ridiculous to get out of.
Yeah.
Where like basically you can't get out of it because you go one way and your knee goes and you go the other way or your foot goes.
It just breaks something either way. Yeah, this will be a fun match. Again, it's the buggy choke versus the guy who's just willing to break you, and he's young. Yeah. We also have Carla Shellhammer versus Kat Dasani as well on this card. So again, main character looks great. I think it's pay-per-view.
It's a pay-per-view.
Probably worth it. given how good the card looks,
Yeah.
it's probably worth it.
It's going to be just, if it's like the last one, they're very, very long cards, like 8 hours of
Yeah, they're very
jiu-jitsu.
long.
So, I mean,
you get your money's worth.
You get
for
your money's
sure.
worth, but it's an all-day affair.
Yep. So that is it for main character 5. We also this week have ADXC 7 that takes place in Rio. Hugely stacked card as well. I think it's also pay-per-view. I think it's like $5 usually or $10. It's pretty cheap.
It's the one company that my
TX7.
Yeah, that my bank account's always like, are you really sending
my
money?
card also always kicks it back, and I
Yeah.
have to go through it. Yes, this is actually a real
it's
charge.
Saudi Arabia, yes. I'm
Yes.
sending my money to Saudi
Yes.
Arabia.
Every time my card goes, you didn't do this. I'm like, I actually did do this
Yeah.
one. Yeah. They're like, okay. I remember last time I kept doing it. I had like 3 different like rejection messages. I was like, why isn't I going through? I had to go, oh, yes, that's
Yeah.
and buy it again. Main evented by Rodolfo Vieira versus Derek Brunson. I'm going to go Rodolfo on this one.
Yeah.
But
In
Brunson, super hard to deal with in the cage.
Nogi.
We also have Paulo Miao versus Junior Rigetti. This is in the gi.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Paulo Miao on this one. We have Miriam Maguire versus Sebastian Serpa. This is a gi event. This is co-main. Miriam has looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
I'm not betting against Miriam here. We have Peter Frank versus Jay-Z Calvacante.
And it's Nogi? Yeah, it's Nogi.
Yeah, it's Nogi. This will be fun.
You never know what the hell's going to happen. This is
Absolutely
going to
not.
be wild because both are showmen. So you're also going to see some of the weirdest things you will ever see in a jiu-jitsu
This is
match.
a battle of the guillotine versus the flying armbar.
Yeah.
Is essentially what this is going to be.
And then after that, you're going to get a little dancing because both of them like to dance and show off.
Have a good time.
And so it'll be entertaining.
It'll be good. We also have Ana Carolina Vieira versus Aliela Laverne. This is a grappling match.
Yeah.
This is
Grappling
low
means-
key.
And grappling means Nogi.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
Yeah.
grappling match. This is low key a really, really interesting matchup.
But I think Anna Carolina wins. Because
Yeah,
she
I do.
won ADCC.
She beat her before.
Yeah, an ADCC, right? Didn't she win?
She won,
Baby
but I
Vera.
forget. Did she beat Arielle in ADCC at first round, or was it different? I think it was a different event.
Oh, okay.
Regardless, it potentially should be higher up on the card. We have Espen Mathisen versus Lucas Valente, former world champion versus
Or in
Espen
gi,
Mathisen in the
yeah.
gi. This is also a great tactical match between these two guys. Lucas Valente is a phenomenal gi player, former either silver medalist or world champion. I forget which one. And Espen has been looking really, really good in ADXC. I am going to lean Lucas Valente in this one, but I have been really appreciating Espen's game recently at ADXC.
I go Espen.
You go Espen because he's more familiar with ADXC?
I think he also bolos the crap out of people.
He does. That'll be fun. We have Henrique Sassoni versus Javier Zaruski. This whole card is wildly stacked.
I just remembered who both of those were.
Uh-huh.
Like for whatever name, it took a second for that name to like click in and be like, oh, that's that
guy.
That's that Atos guy that they
Uh-huh.
added in last minute.
That's he was a last minute replacement for ADCC when the last person dropped. He's one of the last replacements. Versus Henrique Sassoni. We also have Helena Crovar versus Sabia de Souza. Going Crovar on this one, unless you can figure out like specifically how to beat Crovar, but it's very, very hard to do. You should kind of replicate what Nia Blackman did. Even though Crovar beat her, it was close.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if anybody's ever shoved her into the cage and made her like work off the cage.
We've seen Crovar in cage matches before, but it's been a while.
Yeah.
Who beat Crovar for the championship at ACC? Is it Daddy?
Daddy.
Was it Daddy? No, different weight class. No,
different weight class.
because that was absolute
Mo Black beat her the first time
in trials.
in trials. Anna Carolina beat her the second
In the
time.
finals. That's what it was. Yep. Yeah. So, Crovar is hard to beat. We
Yeah.
also have Antonio Asif. Or sorry, more on that one?
Nope.
Versus Leonardo Nascimento. That'll be fun. Asif is a trials winner. And Nascimento is just very, very hard
And
to
this
deal with
card
as well.
is in Brazil.
Yeah, which makes sense why you have so much Brazilian talent.
Yeah.
You also have Camille Masturi versus Hobson Gracie Jr. In a gi match. So that's the main card for that. They also have a preliminary card.
Yeah.
It's hard to find, but I think it's like tx7.com is the name of the website.
But I didn't think it's tx7.au or one of those.
AX. It's
you
you search ADXC7, you'll eventually find it, It's usually like $7 or $10.
I think also if you go to Instagram, generally if you go to their Instagram
Yeah, it has
page,
a link to it.
the link is right there, and you just click the link and you go there.
I don't advocate for pay-per-views a lot. We try to buy like one pay-per-view a month, so we try to keep it to.
Yeah.
This card is worth pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think
like it's annoying that we have two of them in the same weekend. We have main character and this. Both are very, very good cards that are very, very interesting.
Yeah.
This ADXC 7 card is absolutely stacked, and is probably worth the price of a large milkshake. Like, is worth your money. So that's all we got this week. That's all we have. Like, we have a bunch of stuff this next week. Yeah. It'll be a lot of fun. Miranda, do you have anything going on for the week?
Maybe. I don't know. I was supposed to go away this week for work, and then I didn't. And then maybe I'm gonna do some matches next week, and maybe not. And I don't know yet. I don't know what I'm doing.
We got our gym's grand opening. You were actually by last night for open mat, so that was fun.
And we'll come back for the opening.
So that'll be happening this week. I have nothing else going on other than like we have a lot of jiu-jitsu to watch this next weekend.
Yeah.
Getting a lot of work done. Hopefully the background for the podcast set is different here in a week or two. We're working on it. I have all of the materials in my house now.
That's great.
Aside from like one like backing fabric for color, everything else is in place. And so hopefully next week or 2 weeks from now, the podcast set will have a nice new background.
Yeah.
And that is all I'm working on right now. And we're working on the production desk behind the show and like mounting our monitor screens here so we can keep up with what our notes and stuff. So we're slowly moving into the new space, and I'm very, very excited for like the stuff that I have planned for this space, and it's gonna be phenomenal. So I'm looking forward to it. Miranda, anything else?
Nope, that's it.
As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Reruns, saying that what it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.